So Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome. It's a pleasure to be together on this Shabbos evening, and it's wonderful to not only have Rabbi Brown, who's always with us and is just 10 doors down on East 15th, where we are in East Vancouver, but Cantor Josh Breitzer, who is coming to us all the way from Brooklyn. And Josh, you're standing in your historic sanctuary, or at least a screen of your historic sanctuary. Where are you?
That's right. This is the Sanctuary Congregation Beth Elohim in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Sanctuaries from 1909.
Wow. I've been there once. I know Rabbi Brown's been there also. It's really a spectacular place. And as I understand, your congregation really revitalized that shul that had been, like Brooklyn has been revitalized.
It's a pretty extraordinary place. Yeah, pretty exciting time to be here.
Yeah, well, we're really honored for you to be with us. A reminder to everybody, because we had a lot of comments about this last time when we had Cantor Will. Josh is not applying for our Cantor's job. He already has a job. He's gainfully employed. I would try to get him if we could, but no, Rabbi Rachel Timoner is very, very fortunate to have Cantor Breitzer, as are we this evening. And so we hope you can join us in our service. You can follow along in the Siddur. There's a link to that at templeshalom.ca/video, Mishkan Tefillah for Friday night. And we're going to begin page 128, Hine Matov.
Please sing with me. Hine Matov Manai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Ay, 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 ay. Try that with me. Ay, 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 ay. Two more times. Ay, 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 and see if you can remember that melody, because we're going to be coming back to it a few times.
Thank you, Josh. So we are, assembled here as we are online for these Shabbat services that we've been throughout COVID. And it's a reminder of how we have made our sanctuaries a mikdash mayash, or our homes a sanctuary, a mikdash mayat, a sanctuary in miniature. I'm going to talk about it more tomorrow morning in my drash, but this week's Torah portion, Truma, talks about the building of the Mishkan, of the ancient temple, or the tabernacle, I should say, that the Israelites schlepped through the desert. And then the Haftorah talks about the building of the biblical temple in Jerusalem, and how in both of those instances, the effort was to create a place where God could dwell amongst the people. And maybe we're building in some ways a third temple now, in that we have created in our homes the synagogue. For some of us, that's on our sofa looking at our TV screens, or sitting at our desk that we work at all the time, and then the Zoom meetings that go on and on become now moments of transformation and spiritual uplift. And maybe we're laying in bed with those dearest to us and participating in services lying down in our pajamas. In any way, we've learned that we can make a sacred space, we can make a holy place wherever we bring ourselves, wherever we bring our intention, and wherever we invite God and Jewish tradition in. And so it's our pleasure to go now to the home of Pamela Thayerman and Billy Lackman, members of our congregation for a long time, to welcome in Shabbat with the lighting of the Shabbos candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Billy and Pam, thank you so much for that. And we'll turn back to Cantor Breitzer as we continue with Kabbalat Shabbat.
So we find ourselves on page 130 and the beginning of this sequence of Psalms, which are meant to transport us in time and space. And I'm thinking particularly of this Shabbat, which is known as Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of memory, the Shabbat that comes right before Purim. And while traditionally Zachor is meant to direct our attention to the calamities that have befallen our people in the past, I want to suggest that tonight we can also use it as an opportunity to remember the joys that we've shared together in community. For many of us, it's been almost exactly a year in Jewish time since we were able to gather together physically in person. And these Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms were included in our liturgy as an expression, as an experience of singing together. Famously, the Kabbalists would encourage each other to run out into the fields in the land of Israel to welcome Shabbat just as it was coming in. And so together we're going to explore tapping into this sense of communal memory. Zachor, we are told, remember what it was like to sing together, to celebrate together. I'll be using my guitar as a way to remind myself of what it's like to be singing with other voices. Also, I'll be using it to tap out rhythm so we can imagine the sound of people clapping or tapping their feet as well, and invite you to join me on this experience. Page 130, Lechu Niranena, come, let us rejoice, begins with an invitation. Lechu Niranena L'Adonai Naria L'Tzur Yishreinu Nekadem Afanav Betodah Bizmirot Naria lo Anaraya 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 ay ay na 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 ya na ya na 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 ana ya ya ana ya 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 ay na 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 together ana ya ya ana ya ya ana ya ya ay ay na 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 Page 131. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru bagoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifleotav, ki gadol Adonai, umehulal me'od, norahu, al kol Elohim, ay, 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 ki kol Elohei ha'amim elilim, v'Adonai שמיים עשה, הוד והדר לפניו, עוז ותפארת במקדשו, ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ, ירם הים ומלואו, יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל עצי יער לפני אדוני, כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים באמונתו. עלי 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 Page 132, Adonai malach tagel haaretz, ישמחו עם רבים, ענן וערפל סביביו, צדק ומשפט מכון כיסו, אוהבי אדוני, שנאו רע, שומר נפשות חסידיו, מיד רשעים יצילם, זרו על הצדיק וישרי לב שמחה. שמחו צדיקים אדוני והודו לזכר קודשו. איי עלי We move ahead now to page 137, the last few verses of Psalm 29, a prayer for strength and for well-being, for shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ay, 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 Shalom. Ay, 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 Shalom. Adonai Oz, Adonai Oz, le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ay, 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 Shalom. Ay, 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 Shalom. Sing it with me. Ay, 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 Shalom. Ay, 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 Shalom. end of a long week, how many of us are in need of just a few moments to breathe, to rest, perhaps to look somewhere other than a screen. We've been spending a lot of time within the same four walls. Perhaps we might find our gaze now wandering to other aspects of the room that we find ourselves in, other sacred parts of our little mikdash me'at. Maybe you can find something in your space that you're grateful for, and that perhaps you guard it, you protect it, you hold it close in a sacred way. Shamor v'zachor, we're taught. Shabbat is something to be guarded, cherished, as well as to be remembered. So let's take a few moments, just breathing together before we continue with L'chadodi on page 138. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך אפיך. רב לך שבת בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי, אורי. שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise together, verse 9. בואי ושלום עטרת בהלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת. A little bit louder. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. יללי 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 לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Oh, Josh, that was wonderful. That was transformative and transporting. I hope that all of us at home who have now, I think we're up and we're dancing in our homes, right? That old Jewish joke, it might lead to dancing. I think that kind of worked here. The beauty of Zoom is that I'm on mute, so my singing doesn't interrupt yours, and that's good for everybody. But this moment now, as we transition with Chatzi Kaddish, is to recognize that we've been transported. We've come out of that craziness of our week, hopefully, and the busyness of our lives and all that's going on, even if we haven't even left our homes, and now entered into this holy space, this holy time. And so we'll remain standing. We'll continue page 263 as Rabbi Brown joins us on screen for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
May be seated at home as we continue with our blessing for the evening Ma'ariv Aravim on page 265. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, u'vitvuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteam barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech, b'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravim.
266. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו. ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Amen. So the parsha that Rabbi Dan mentioned at the beginning of our service, Truma, in which we are instructed to build the Mishkan, this holy tabernacle in space, has so much detail. It's really incredible, all the different materials that God commands Moses to tell the Israelites to bring. Things like precious stones and skins, dolphin skins even. And one question that always comes up is, where did they get all of these things? Where did our ancestors, in the middle of wandering in the desert, find all of the materials needed to construct this tabernacle? Surely they didn't bring them from Egypt, all of those things that they needed. And I think there's actually a really beautiful message behind finding the materials that you need to build something holy. We don't always know what we're going to need. Our ancestors, when they escaped from Egypt, they did bring some things. We know that they brought some gold and silver from their neighbors. We know they brought matzah. But they brought perhaps what's the most important thing of all, which is faith. They brought their faith to believe that they would have what they would need. And indeed, when they got to this point in our narrative, in our story, they were able to find those materials to construct something holy. Each of us is at a different point of crossing in our lives, and we don't know what lies ahead. Certainly, this year has taught us that maybe more than anything else. But our tradition teaches us that all of those materials that we will need, we can find. That we will have the potential to make a life of sacred meaning and sacred space with just that faith that what lies before us will provide what we need. So let's sing that song of Mi Chamocha, page 270.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh nora tehilot oseh fele nora tehilot oseh fele malchutecha ra'u banecha bokeh hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeiri anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Adonai imloch leolam va'ed ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל. 271. You know this, sing it with me. Oivenu Adonai Eloheinu לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכה שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכה שלומך עלי 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 The indented paragraph toward the bottom of the page. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם 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 ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. Remember this from the beginning? Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of memory. Throughout our time together already, we've been experiencing perhaps melodic fragments where you might be thinking to yourself, gee, I know that from somewhere. I think I've heard that before, some other time, some other place in my life. In a way, whenever we come together to pray, be it through a screen or in real physical space, we're tapping into this sense of communal memory, of drawing in and leaning upon each other in some way to remember how this goes, how this melody, even if I don't know all the words, somehow serves to transport me, as Rabbi Moskowitz taught earlier. And so this melody that we've just reprised, I'm going to teach you a little bit more of, because we're going to be singing it again after an extended silent prayer. And this is a melody that is unique to the Friday night experience. It was written in Brooklyn about 100 years ago, and we'll sing the words together after our silent prayer. But before we do those things, we're going to have Vishamru, which is a reminder to us on page 272, that Shabbat is a thing to remember, to cherish, to guard, and to protect. And the sacred sounds we use for our prayers, though they can be sung in so many ways, are all inspired by some earlier, long ago composed, fundamentally forgotten ur text of a melody, which in Hebrew we call nusach, formula for synagogue chant. And so after I sing this melody that we're going to be adding words to a little bit later after the silent prayer, we'll enter into Vishamru, which is a reminder to ourselves that this gift of Shabbat has come down to us over the generations and is ours to cherish and to protect and indeed to breathe new life into. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת
Take some of this Shabbat peace for silent prayer.
On page 182, we come to a special set of prayers for Friday night called the Me'ain Sheva, which, if you look carefully, is sort of a condensed version of the Shabbat Amidah, a special iteration for Friday night that contains all of the major themes of our Amidah in a more poetic, interpretive form. And it begins with some familiar words, and if you're able to do so, please rise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Kone Shamayim va'aretz, Magen Avot ve'imahot bidvaro, Mechaye metim b'mamaro, Ha'el HaKadosh she'en kamohu, Hameniach le'amo ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד, מעון הברכות. אל האור Adon HaShalom, Mekadesh HaShabbat, Umevarech Shavi, Umeniach Bikedusha, Le'am Medushnei Oneg, Zecher, Lemase Bereishit. Once again, Zecher Lemase Bereishit. Ay, 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 Please be seated.
Thank you so much, Cantor Breitzer. It's just such a beautiful service, and it's incredible how our liturgy, while the same Siddur that we use, I know, in your shul as well as ours, can just bring such a different feeling when we have new melodies, and your neshama really came through, and I love davening with you. So thank you so much for that. Friends, we want to take a moment to offer a mishaberach, a prayer of healing for those in our Temple Sholom community and beyond, all of those who are in need of some shalom, of peace and wholeness in body and in soul. And so we're going to turn in our Siddurim to page 371 for our mishaberach and offer this prayer on behalf of those who we will name and those we will name in our hearts. And so I want to take a moment to mention the names of those we are praying for this Shabbat: Dr. Arthur Ross, Pam Newman, Esther Brindle, Mel Karp, Dr. Dimitri Zanazin, Lynn Shabo, Shayna Stawicki, Maylor Valance, Ron Hewer, Elliot Pohl, Sanford Cohen, Jean Angus, Sarah Chiachi, Kim Bennett, Sarah Bat Avraham Vasara, Igor Ilyasov, Ed Ozer, David Shlomo Gorney, Ronnie Goldberg, Andrea Jarjbiak, Maureen Newman, Neil Tapley, and Yana Timko. And again, I invite you to share the names out loud in your homes or in your hearts, people you are thinking of as we join together in this prayer of healing.
Avotei Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Brown, and thank you, Cantor Breitzer, for what is really just a beautiful service. It's so wonderful to be together with you, and we're going to be together again. Join all of us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. right here on the same YouTube channel or on Facebook or on Telus. our temple website for Shabbat again tomorrow morning with Cantor Breitzer at 10 a.m. And then stick around after the service if you would, because we're going to have a virtual oneg with Cantor Breitzer and an opportunity to visit and reflect on the service and all that we've learned from it. That'll start right after the service, and that's via Zoom. And then tomorrow night at 7:30 is Havdalah, so join us for that, also via Zoom. And again, Monday and Wednesday mornings, Minyan at 7:45. Want to save the date for our next visiting Cantor Shabbat. That's March 5th and 6th with Cantor Alicia Stillman, who's going to be with us for Friday and Saturday of that weekend. And that weekend is a very special weekend also because it's International Refugee Shabbat. And we've put together a really interesting and I think heartwarming program. We're going to have a conversation with Esther and Zara, who are a Syrian refugee family that we're currently sponsoring and who are waiting in Jordan to come to Canada. And they've been waiting for a long time, a couple of years now. And then on Saturday, we're going to hear from the Mustafa and the Issa families that we sponsored almost 4 years ago now and have landed in Canada. We're going to check in with them and hear about all that's going on in their life and how their children are doing and how they've acclimated to Canadian society. So please join us March 5th and 6th. Following that, on March 19th, will be another visiting Cantor Shabbat with Cantor Cheryl Wunsch. Purim is coming. It's next Thursday, February 25th. Join us online at 6:30 for a family-friendly Purim spiel, followed by a 7 o'clock Megillah reading. We've got 8 or 9 Megillah readers from across the city and throughout our congregation. They're going to join us this year for Megillah reading. And then at 7:30, we have our Purim comedy competition in partnership with Temple Sinai in Toronto and a number of other Reform synagogues across Canada. So join us for that. That's really for adults. And then continuing on, if I can get my slides to work here. Of course, Saturday night next week, a very special evening as we say Lehitraot, but not goodbye. Just we'll see you again to Cantor Tausig as we celebrate her. We have hundreds of people that have signed up to join us for that online. We'll send out a link on Friday night. If you haven't had a chance yet to do so, please sign up online to be part of that event. And we'll all come together to celebrate Cantor Tausig at 7 that evening. On Monday, February 22nd, we have a Hamantash and Bank sponsored by our Temple Sholom Sisterhood with the incredible and award-winning Justine Balin. So join the Sisterhood and Justine on Zoom for that on Monday at 5 p.m. And again, thank you to Cantor Breitzer for this incredible weekend that we're sharing together. And now over to Rabbi Brown for tonight's sermon.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, again. So great to be with you this evening. I want to say that I'm so grateful to Cantor Breitzer, not only for his beautiful music tonight, but also for setting the liturgical mood for us on this Shabbat Zachor, our Shabbat of memory, as we get ready to celebrate Purim next week. The other day at home, we were getting ready to leave the house, and you know how it goes, especially with kids. You're 1 foot out the door when suddenly somebody might realize they need to use the washroom or are hungry, forgot something. It was this kind of frenzy when my son Jonas said, "Wait, I need to get my masecha. I need a mask." I smiled and thought about how sweet it was that he knows the Hebrew word for mask from VTT, one of the strange parts of this pandemic lingo that our children in Jewish day school are learning to add to their Hebrew vocabulary. But I also laughed at myself about how absurd the whole exchange felt, because to me, the word masecha is one that I really associate as a Purim word, a mask that one wears to dress up with a costume. There is, of course, a strong tie for us as Jews between this pandemic and Purim. As for many of us, Purim of 2020 was the last time we were in person together at shul. Rabbi Dan often reminisces about wearing gloves to serve pizza, feeling very strange in the social hall. I was still on our sabbatical in Philadelphia, and I remember my family went to a neighborhood shul with some friends. And that Jonah, the same Jonah from the beginning of the story, was scolded by some of the women in the shul because he went up for second helpings at the buffet for the dinner and tried to help himself, instead of letting the server do the plating. He didn't understand. None of us really understood how quickly our lives were going to change and how our points of reference that we had grown used to would be upended. The famous phrase in the Megillah is v'nahafochu, turning things upside down, seeing the opposite or watching something unravel and turn backwards. We see the phrase actualized through the story. Haman plots to kill the Jews and demands gallows to be made for the hanging of Mordecai. What actually happens? By the end of the story, Haman's name is drowned out with our voices as we read about his demise, hanging from the same gallows he created for our hero. To show the topsy-turvy nature of the day, we wear masks, drink to our heart's content, and perform parodies of our favorite shows. While the holiday of Purim is meant to be joyous and cheerful, just as the phrase v'nahafochu insinuates, there is more meaning to the celebration than meets the eye. What does it mean to engage in a day that throws all order, structure, and planned endings out the window? The story of Purim reminds us that no matter how settled we are in our routines or secure we are in our lives, with a blink of an eye, everything can turn upside down. Be it news about an illness, experiencing worries in a job, or being faced with the global pandemic, we are too familiar with the nature of a topsy-turvy world. The question for us is not whether or not this kind of experience exists. We all know it does. But rather, when we experience this turning v'nahafochu, what tools do we have to hang on? We talk a lot about resiliency. It's one of the key tools that individuals develop to deal with these kinds of experiences. It's not a skill we are necessarily born with, but one that can be taught, ideally from childhood, but even adults can learn resiliency. The quality of that resiliency is recognized as critical not only to an individual's adaptation to life's challenges, but to our whole collective survival as a society. It is those who are able to persevere through adversity, be strengthened by it, and actually catalyze others to do the same that can make all the difference in a future. Judaism writ large is all about resilience. Across the span of Jewish history, we have experienced trauma, even catastrophe, and survived as a people and as a civilization. After each catastrophe, the prevailing paradigm was this: we could no longer know how to understand ourselves in relationship to God, to other Jews, and to other people. And we had to transcend catastrophe into something new. We have breathed new life over and over again into the Jewish people and found pathways toward repair. From trauma, we've found healing. We've had to recover and revision, regenerate, and reseed vital Jewish life. It is our Purim Megillah that offers us chaos and a firm foundation to stand upon. Toward the end of the story, we are told the Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. We repeat the same verse during Havdalah at the end of every Shabbat and remind ourselves of how we can hold on for the coming week. How do we remain stable in a topsy-turvy world? We hold on to faith, find joy with the people we love, and give honor to the lessons that are important to us. Purim, I think, is an ideal vessel for the transmission of the value of resiliency. I think it's fitting that the anniversary of our real awareness of COVID-19 and the changes it would bring to our world are connected for us to this holiday. The time of year when we are face to face with our vulnerability that we encountered as a people long ago. And it is the same time of year when we look to humor and fun as an essential mechanism of Jewish resiliency. We will continue to use our long-held personal and collective experiences of this resiliency to get us through each topsy-turvy day. So may all of us enjoy next week a silly upside-down Purim. And may we know the strength to stand firm, that through the hardships and curves and bumps in the road, we won't fall down. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Brown. That was a wonderful, wonderful drosh. Terrific.
Thanks so much, Rabbi Dan.
Thank you. Our service is going to continue on page 586 as we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים. ואלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, על כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו, לרום מהרה בתפארת עוזך, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי. 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו
We take a moment now to remember loved ones who are not with us, but whose presence is always felt, particularly at times when we gather for prayer, at moments of family celebration and simcha. They are present with us as long as we remember them and draw lessons from their life, remember them for blessing. We turn now to page 575 if you want to follow along in your Siddur. I think we included that in the PDF. There's a poem there from one of my teachers that I think helps us frame our memories at this time. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, from birth to death to life everlasting. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week or these past 30 days, whose families are in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, even though you may be standing alone in your home, we invite you to stand now at this time because you're not alone, as we across this city and even now across the continent stand with you in memory of your loved one. Recall of blessed memory Suzanne Sultana Bennett, Ted Cohn, Michael Frimmer, Zelda Handelsman, Gerard Leon Mutal, Devorah Rotem, Elchanan Tal, Yaakov Olenitsky. And we also recall those who died at this time in seasons past, whose yortzeit, the anniversary of their death, is on this Shabbat. As I read their names, if you two could please rise. Shayla Atnikov, Hetty Balin, Murray Bloom, Iris Bowman, Cecil Bund, Sophie Butts, Jacob Chernoff, Ben Cohen, Ray Conrad, Anna Ewaskin, Joseph Feyerman, Michael Felstein, David Folks, Agnes Gans, Mosek Menachem Gildsberg, Jack Gold, Cora Goldschlager, Fanny Goldschlager, Fanny Gordon, Siegfried Hellburn, Janine Hockman, Rita Horn, Kenneth James, Ruben Sakna Kahanovitz, Joseph Katzen, Lena Kaufman, Charles Kemp, Sarah Kerson, Brian Lurcher, Yaakov Levitan, Frank Levy, Louis McGill, Harold Margolis, Judith Mastai, William Valentine Armstrong McDivitt, Vera Miller, Charles Mutal, Dylan Ozer, Stuart Palmer, Sabine Pincus, Joseph Rutlinger, Laura Rigler, Annalise Robins, Joanne Rosenbaum, Robert Rowan, Samuel Rubenstein, Becky Schloss, Rhodes Sandler, Morris Silverman, Rebecca Simpkin, Hilda Stern, Ted Strending, Molly Tenenbaum, Shirley Trademan, Harry Tregabo, Solomon Trocky, Michael Vinitsky, Ed Watchuk, Sadie Wenner, and Norman White. If there are others who have names for Kaddish and loved ones that you're remembering, I invite you and encourage you to call their names out loud to give voice to their memory, even as I said, as we might stand with only those closest to us in our homes. As we turn to page 598 and we rise for Mourner's Kaddish, we recall all of those who died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel around the world, those who have died from this pandemic, and those who died in the Shoah that have no family left to remember them, we recall them for blessing as well, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yomad yivrach yirutev yamlich malchutem, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kariv v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, Vit Adar, Vit Ale, Vit Alal, Shemed Kudisha, Brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damin ran be'alma, v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayim, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'yimaru, amen. Osei shalom yimrama, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'yakol yoshvei tevel, v'yimaru, amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, and comfort all the bereaved. And we say together, amen. We'll ask Rabbi Brown to join us back on screen. Josh, it has been such a pleasure and such a wonderful transformation to daven with you this evening. And I hope those that have been able to join us tonight can join us again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. as Cantor Breitzer will be with us again for our Shabbat morning service. And then he'll stick around afterwards for our virtual oneg, so we'll have a chance to talk about the service and the choices that he's made and a little bit more, learn a little bit more about what a cantor does. Josh, thank you so much for tonight. Rabbi Brown, thank you again for your tremendous drosh. And we'll continue with a closing song. What are we going to do, Josh?
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Dan, Rabbi Brown, for being so gracious and welcoming, and to everyone at Temple Shalom. Page 129 is said that the more that I keep Shabbat, the more that Shabbat keeps me. And perhaps in the Shabbat Zachor, we can also say that the more that I remember Shabbat, the feeling of Shabbat joy, Shabbat song, Shabbat community, the more that will sustain me now and long to come. Ki eshemer Shabbat El yishmereni ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni otehi le'ol me'ad beino uveini otehi le'ol me'ad beino uveini. Sing it with me. Ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni ki eshmer Shabbat el yishmereni otehi le'ol me'ad beino uveini 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 beino uveini beino uveini. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you again. We'll see you soon. Shabbat Shalom. Stay safe.